Good afternoon, good morning, and a good evening to everybody here. My name's Jog Raj, and I'm one of the consultants here at Sandhill. And we've got a very short presentation here by one of our colleagues by the name of Nick Porter from Silwood Technology. And he's going to be doing a short presentation and demonstration as part of their suite of technologies and products that they've got, and their integrations into the erwin data modeling and data governance suite of products here. And we're going to spend a few minutes introducing ourselves, and then Nick will do his presentation and demonstration. There will be a question and answer session towards the end of the session in here. And you can also use the chat area in your participants area to send us any questions, and I'll keep an eye on that. And Sophie is going to be making a recording of the session, so it will be available for everybody to use after it's been posted, etc. And then the slides that we've been using here will also be made available. So Nick, next slide, please. So as a company, Sandhill Consultants, we are one of erwin's partners. And we obviously supply the partners' products in there, and there's a whole range of different products that we supply. But in support of that, we also provide consultancy and technical support, training and mentoring. And we've got a number of offices, one of those here in the UK, and another one which covers the North America area. And between us, we do cover the entire world between ourselves in here. Nick, sorry, and now with that in mind, I'll hand over to Nick, and he'll carry on with the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much, Jog. Hello, everybody. As Jog was just saying, my name's Nick Porter. I'm the Technical Director of Silwood Technology. And what I want to talk to you about today is about large application packages like SAP and PeopleSoft and Microsoft Dynamics, and how you can gain an understanding of their data structure through data modeling. So packages like SAP are often viewed as black boxes, particularly by people outside the team that look after these systems. So we often hear people say things like, we don't understand the SAP system, we leave that to the SAP team. Now, I'm using SAP as an example here, but it's often also applicable to the other packages within an organization. So we'll come on to talk about some of the challenges in addressing this, but just think about what this means. If an organization has something like SAP, then there will be probably terabytes of important business information in those systems. And why would you not want to do the same kind of data management functions that you would apply to any other more accessible systems like homegrown database applications? So shouldn't these systems be under your corporate standards for areas like data governance and master data management? So really, data professionals should be able to apply their skills, I'm guessing your skills for the audience that are out there, to any of these data sources. So if it's a database containing business data, regardless of whether it's underneath one of these big packages, it needs governing. And the first step in that process of governing a data source is to understand what's in there, what's in the database. And of course, data modeling is an excellent and proven way to go about doing that. So just to give you an idea about what's involved then here, this is an erwin model of just a couple of SAP tables. And those of you who are data modelers, you know, that's fairly easy to understand. You've got meaningful table and attribute names, you've got primary and foreign keys. So anybody who is versed in data modeling won't have too much trouble starting to come to an understanding of what these tables are about. Now, if you were to take Erwin out of the box and reverse engineer that same database, this is actually what you would see. So these are the physical properties, if you like, of those same tables in the SAP system. So you've got fairly meaningless names, and unless you really know what those tables are about, then knowing that KNA1 means the customer table, and then also what the attributes are really all about, and then also how that customer table relates to other tables within the system, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to do. Now, SAP is a sort of extreme case of this. Some of the other packages aren't quite as cryptic as this, but most of them do have these similar problems. So there are a number of issues in getting at meaningful metadata, if you like, from these systems in order to govern them. And then the first problem then is that what you might call useful metadata is not in the system catalog. So Erwin can take any database, any relational database, things like Oracle or SQL Server or DB2, and it can reverse engineer the structure from the system catalog. It's attaching to the database system catalog in order to get the metadata and reverse engineer it and give you a data model. Now, in the case of a package like SAP, that system catalog has got those kind of names, the names I've shown you on the diagram. And obviously you would like, customers would like, users would like to get those kind of names which actually give some business context to the data structure. So the system catalog does not usually hold useful metadata. Also, there's no primary or foreign key constraints in that database. All the referential integrity, all the business context information is in some kind of proprietary data dictionary. Second problem is the sheer size, and again, SAP is perhaps the biggest in this area. A typical SAP system is around about 90,000 tables and around 1 million attributes. So if you were trying to get an understanding of that, obviously you don't want to do it based upon getting a data model of 90,000 tables. A lot of the problem, if you like, is how to elephant eat that, how to bring that down into more manageable structures. And then despite the fact that a system like SAP has got 90,000 tables and 1 million attributes, most customers will customize that. They will add their own tables and attributes. And obviously, if you were trying to govern a system like SAP, you don't want some theoretical model. You want your system. You want the customized version. And then it's not unusual for any of these packages for a given installation to have multiple instances. I can think of one of our SAP customers who until recently had 35 different instances of SAP worldwide, all of them slightly different. So our product is called Safyr, and it's really about solving those problems. So the idea of it is to allow you to understand and access and share business level metadata for systems like SAP. So data professionals should be able to understand the business information in these systems like they could any other database. And the way we do that is by pulling the metadata not from the system catalog, but from the data dictionary tables, the data dictionary structures of each of these packages. Now, it's not just an interface. The product Safyr is not just an interface. Because of this problem of scale, a lot of the functionality of the product is about subsetting the metadata. It's about bringing it down into more manageable groups. I'm just going to give you in a couple of minutes a little flavor of what that really means. But just to summarize really what we're doing then, we are doing metadata extraction, what we call metadata discovery, from each of the systems on the left. So most SAP applications, things like BW and CRM and SRM, including systems that are on the HANA database. We can do the Oracle owned applications like eBiz and PeopleSoft and Siebel and JD Edwards. We can do Salesforce and force-based apps. That's now become perhaps our second most popular interface, given the popularity of the Salesforce environment. We can do Microsoft Dynamics, and we also have an ability to get at other packages. I'm not really going to talk about that today. And for each of those, what we're doing, we're reverse engineering the system from this business layer, the data dictionary layer, if you like, of each of these systems. We're bringing it into the Safyr environment, and then you've got these tools, which we call the scoping tools, and they allow you to rapidly identify what you might consider to be business artifacts. And there are some little examples here then. You might want to determine the bill of materials tables for a system, or the accounts payable tables and relationships. And then we can share the results of that with a number of different technologies, including generating Erwin models. And the kinds of projects that Safyr gets used on are in the last panel then on this diagram. And I always tend to say anything that's got the word data in the project title, things like data governance, master data management, data integration, metadata management, any of those kind of projects where you have a need to understand one or more of the systems on the left of this diagram are where we tend to get used. Last point to say about this then, as you can see along the bottom, our method for extracting metadata from SAP is actually certified by SAP themselves. So I'm just really going to give you a flavor, if you like, of what that actually means. And as SAP is perhaps the big, well, not perhaps, it is the biggest of the systems in terms of metadata, I'm going to just quickly show you how that looks, what's involved in doing this exploration. So there is a wizard to help you do the extraction of metadata. Once you've done that, there are a series of what we call these scoping tools in the middle. I always tend to start with this one, and this gives you a list of all the tables that have been reverse engineered from, in this case then, an SAP ERP system. So each row in this grid is a base table. And if you look to the end of this, you can see there's just under 100,000 tables in this particular SAP system. Massive amount, way too much really for anybody to really start to understand without some real help. And if we were looking at the system catalog, these are the kind of names that you would see. You see, they are pretty meaningless. They get a little bit easier, but not a lot. And of course, the name which tells us what's in each table, the description of what's in each table is in this column here. And I'll talk a little bit about the other columns in a minute. So you can do, the first step you might do is some kind of wildcard search. So let's say we want to understand customer master. Let's find any table that's got the string customer master in its description. And you can see that's brought the 100,000 odd tables down into 58. And we've got things like row count over here, so you can see how much data is in each table. Now, what I'm showing you here is metadata from our own SAP sandbox. It's got minimal data in. Any of the attendees out there who've got SAP, I'm sure if you did the same on your system, you'd see much bigger results. And then these columns here are showing us the number of related tables. So I can see how each table relates to others in the system. So this one here, look, general data in customer master sort of jumps out at me as being something of interest. And if I drill into the structure of that table, I can now see the columns that make up that table. So I can see, again, the rather cryptic column names. Helps a little bit if you understand German, but not a lot really. Pretty hard to understand. And of course, what tells you what's in each of those tables partly is this descriptive name, and then you also have an attribute definition. All of this information is coming directly from the SAP system, so you can see city, name of the city as part of the address. You know, the SAP on the whole have done quite a good job in documenting their model. So what we could do now is we could make what we call a subject area. Those of you who know Erwin, very similar concept to an Erwin subject area, and we can give that subject area a name. Let's call it Sandhill Demo. And what it will then do is populate that subject area with that set of tables. We've only got, you know, a few minutes really today to do this. There are a lot of different capabilities to help you with this scoping, particularly for SAP systems. There's a whole bunch of features expressly around helping you to arrive at these subsets. We do also provide these pre-built subject areas, and these are just pointers to standard groupings of tables. So you can see a whole bunch here. There's about 100 that we can deliver. Things like accounts receivable. There's a whole bunch about GDPR as well, which pick out the GDPR personal data fields from a system like SAP. You've got things like materials management down here, payroll. But I'm going to take that Sandhill subject area that I just created, and I can export that now, and I can generate an Erwin model from it. So I'm going to give it a name. I give it the name of the Erwin file it's going to create, and then it uses an API to generate that model using the Erwin API. You can see it's done that quite quickly. It's only a small model, 8 entities and a bunch of attributes and relationships. And then if I go over to Erwin and we have a look for that model, wherever I put it in my temp folder. There it is. And we just do one of the nice Erwin layouts, and we do a fit model. Then now you can see at a high level that model represented in Erwin. And if I drive into the detail, there's that same table, general data in customer master, that I showed you when we looked at the slides. And if I switch it into the physical model, you've got these fairly unfriendly names, which are the real names of the tables in the database. So I hope that makes sense. Maybe I'll just quickly show you, another system. I've been really focusing on SAP. Let's look at something else. Let's look at, one of the other systems. We could look, for instance, at JD Edwards. JD Edwards, much smaller system than SAP, but the same kind of problem. So this is a JD Edwards system. You can see just under 5,000 tables, tiny compared with SAP. But if you're thinking that in terms of an Erwin model, an Erwin model of 5,000 tables would be pretty unmanageable, really. And as you can see, again, the same problem with table names, and the column names are the same. I could show you a Salesforce model if we had a bit more time. Much friendlier object names, but the same issue of how you can get to a clear business understanding of the data structure. So I'm just going to switch back to the slides now, and I hope you found that useful, and happy to take any questions if there are any.
Nick, this is Job speaking here. So there was one question which has been asked, and that is, does Safyr access the SAP CDS, which is the core data service views?
Yes, it does. So we actually produced a new version of the product last year, and we had to extend our capabilities for extracting metadata. So yes, we do pull the CDS views now out of an SAP system, and then when we populate Erwin, we generate those as effectively as database views within the Erwin environment.
Okay. I don't think there's any other questions, but obviously, if anybody has got questions, then please feel free to unmute yourselves and fire away, or put it in the Q&A session. And I guess, Nick, just from my perspective, it's a bit of a refresher for me, but I guess what in a sentence or two, what does Safyr actually do then? It as a summary, yeah, I'll leave it to your words in one or two sentences. What does it actually do then, as a summary?
Oh, okay, yeah. So what Safyr does is extracts metadata from the data dictionary environment of large application packages. So it's pulling the metadata from the place where each package defines its own data structure. It puts that into an environment which allows you to rapidly subset that, and then allows you to provision tools like Erwin with metadata to give you a business understanding of the data structure.
Right, okay. So I don't see any more questions coming in, but for everybody who's attended, thank you very much for coming along, and we hope you found the session useful. As I said before, the recording and the slides will be made available after the end of the session. And if you need to ask any more questions, or you want any more information, here are our contact details. Please feel free to give us a call or send us an email, and we will be happy to make contact with you and discuss your questions. And I think with that in mind, I don't think there's any more questions, and I think thank you for attending, everybody, and goodbye. And Sophie, you may want to